Hey guys, it's Ryan here with Hobbies Man. Once again, today we're going to be doing another Sunday back issues. Now this is slightly different from my other videos in the sense that this is more of a comic book roundup kind of review session where I talk about a few different comic books that have some thematic link between them in order to tell you my thoughts about them, right? And this is kind of because most of these issues are kind of floating issues that don't have a continuity to them because I don't have the rest of the books in my collection or because of whatever other reason, right? In this case, we're going to be looking at a series of books by Mike Hoffman, right? These are all kind of floating. One of them is an art book. One of them is a magazine collection that I have digitally, both of those first ones. And the other two are these books here that I got at Howard Days a few months ago from a seller for a pretty good price. I think I paid like $2 for each of these, which is pretty good because these are supposed to be like Kickstarter exclusives and they were about $4 a piece when they were sold, plus shipping and stuff. So I got them for a good deal overall, right? And my knowledge of Mike Hoffman is pretty minimal, although I did recently see a post on Facebook by Joe Jusko about the fact that this guy wasn't really a great member of the comic book artist community. And I don't really have an opinion on that. I don't know what he did or I don't know what happened, nor do I really care. I'm only interested in this artwork and the storytelling that I found in this series, right? In these different books that I'm talking about today, right? So this should go up on my Sword and Sorcery book club channel, but I will link it, in part of my regular playlist of Sunday back issues, so it should appear there as well. But overall, it doesn't really matter. The point is that I'm talking about Mike Hoffman comics. I know there's problems with him. You can tell me about it in the comments if you're interested. If you want to, I'd be interested to learn, but I don't really care too much personally because it's pretty unlikely for me to buy more of these books because they're only available digitally through his website, or they're just gonna be something that's gonna be really hard to buy physically, right? And so even though I like this art style, I'm not really sure that I'm going to go out of my way to chase more of these down. So my exposure and knowledge of this creator starts and stops with these 4 books, right? So let's get on with it. I think that was a lot of introductory stuff, right? So let's get started here with INKsplosion number 1. This is the first art book. I got this for free off Mike Hoffman's website. You can get it yourself as well. I'll leave a link down below if you're interested. This is an art book, and I think broadly speaking, it's really awesome. It's all more or less black and white. I think there might have been 1 or 2 color images here and there, and a lot of this is very Frank Frazetta style, right? It's very clearly taking deep inspiration from Frank Frazetta's artwork. A lot of it is these kind of beautiful pinups and really wonderful kind of bits of artwork, right? And I think that this creator, Mike Hoffman, really excels at that. I think he does a great job. A lot of it is very similar to Frank Frazetta stuff, almost to the point of maybe feeling like it's copied, but I don't know if that's true or not. All I know is that I really like that all of these characters are represented here. We have things that look like John Carter, we have things that look like Flash Gordon, we see a lot of Jungle Girls, we get some horror characters here and there, we get some Vampirella type characters, and broadly speaking, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really fun. I mean, it was free on his website, so I lost nothing from getting it, and I had a few nice minutes of looking at beautiful artwork that really inspired me, right? So I really enjoyed this INKsplosion book, right? The second book that I want to talk about here is called Eyrie. It's spelled E-Y-R-I-E. This is a kind of take on the Eyrie and Warren publishing type stuff, creepy Eyrie and the EC stuff from back in the day. And it's pretty cool. This is a horror anthology. The mascot here is called the Headsman, and this issue that I'm talking about here came out October 2020. It's by Mike Hoffman as the main artist. Jason Crawley did some of the writing, and some of the art is also done by this guy called Jason Paulus and this other guy called Rock Baker. So not all of it is Mike Hoffman's, but most of it is, right? And so this is Mike Hoffman's Eyrie, right? There's 6 stories in this book, and none of them are particularly scary. They're also not long enough to really have too much substance to them, but I liked some elements of some of them, right? So the first one was called Reflection of Evil. This is a monster through vanity type story, right? Kind of similar to the queen in Snow White, right? She constantly wants to be the most beautiful, and so she hunts Snow White. It's that sort of idea, but it's kind of taken differently. It's about this mirror that shows beauty, and as it shows beauty, it actually turns the person gazing into the mirror into a monster, and this gets passed on over time. And I thought this was, generally speaking, pretty fun. We have the second story here called False Alarm. This is about an old man who cried wolf, and then eventually actually had something bad happen to him, and no one gave a shit because he had been just vying for attention the whole time, and just people got tired of listening to him. So this was enjoyable, but not particularly amazing. Then we have one called In Perspective, which is about murders done in such a way where the bodies are arranged to create perspective shifts, right? So for whatever reason, this guy that was a math teacher gets angry at something some student said and goes on this spree of murders where he surgically changes the proportions of people so that when they're laid out, they look like they're in a perspective shift. And it's really creepy and really scary conceptually, but it wasn't particularly scary, actually reading it. So I think that's just kind of the nature of these comic books. There's not really anything particularly important or bad that Mike Hoffman did or any of the other creators involved. It's just kind of like there's not enough suspense built over 8 pages to really make it, impactful, right? So it is what it is. There's this one called Parasites, which is a bit of a Flash Gordon Star Trek kind of thing, where they have this fungal strain that goes across this spaceship. And I really like the setting for this one, so I enjoyed the artwork a lot in this one. Then there's this one called Partnership. That's 2 words, Partnership. And this is about prisoners in space and this kind of Hansel and Gretel type of feeding mechanism that these aliens have. And I thought that the space stuff was really, really good here. Then there's this one called Deja Gru, as in gruesome. And this is about a closet monster and dreams. And I actually really like this one. Probably the best. I think it's either this one or Parasites, that were my favorite in this story, or in this collection of stories, right? But it wasn't really amazing. At the same time, I didn't pay anything for this, so I don't really dislike any of it. I think it was, broadly speaking, enjoyable. It gave me something to do for a few minutes, and I appreciate that. So those are my thoughts with these first stories. Now let's look at these other ones. So here is Tikki Goddess. I think the full title of this is Island of the Tikki Goddess. This is book 1 or issue 1, and this is Exotic South Sea Adventures. And the thing is that this gives you the idea that you're going to have these like water-based, hot lady, scary kind of stories. And the reality is that it's none of that. It does happen in some sort of southern sea, but the story is actually an adaptation of an H.G. Wells story. The art is phenomenal because I think Mike Hoffman's artwork is really great. But the title of the stories and the cover don't really match what the story inside the book is. And I find it really disappointing. I hate when I'm lied to as a customer. I don't appreciate that. I think it's bad. At the same time, this only cost me $2. None of the money actually went to Mike Hoffman. And so I'm not too particularly upset about it, but I really didn't enjoy it. The story is pulpy, it's enjoyable, but there's nothing sexy or scary about it. It broadly speaking feels like a lot of character work, and I don't think that that's really Mike Hoffman's strength. And because this is an adaptation, he didn't even really do any of it. It's based on H.G. Wells' story, and I just didn't enjoy what this story was about. It was about some white guy, some sort of pirate that ends up on an island of like Ghanaian people, and they have this like cannibalistic nature to them. And so he uses the fact that he has a scuba diving suit to hide the fact that he's human, and he acts like a god and gets trapped in this lie. And he manages to escape, and we get to see that there's more story going on, but I'm not interested in tracking down the second issue. And so, broadly speaking, I'm disappointed in the sales pitch compared to what I received, right? If that makes sense. The cover told me it was going to be one type of story, and the story itself inside was completely different from that. And I'm really disappointed by that. The last story here is Thor, the Rock Warrior. This is issue number 2. And this series has a subtitle called Beast Women from the Center of the Earth. And this was pretty enjoyable. I got what I wanted. I got what was promised on the cover, and I appreciate that. I think that in this case, this was well done. This is basically if a modern style human character that happens to have powers similar to Thor from Norse mythology ends up going on an adventure similar to what Tarzan did when he went to see Law of Opar the first time. In book 3, the Jewels of Opar, I think is maybe when it happened. Actually, no, Jewels of Opar is book 5 of Tarzan. The first time that Tarzan meets Law is in book 2, after he is sad that Jane is going to marry his cousin. He goes back to his jungle. He goes down into Opar, and he finds Law, right? And Law is this beautiful woman who is goddess or the shaman leader of this tribe of beastmen and beautiful women. And the same exact thing happens with Thor the Rock Warrior, right? Broadly speaking, it's pretty awesome. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't lost at all with the fact that this is issue 2, which I appreciate. I think that was good. The only thing that happens here that's different from the first meeting between Tarzan and Law is that there's these weird fishmen that decide to ruin what's going on with Thor and this female character in this story when they're trying to have sex. And so these fish people throw a coup. Thor manages to escape. He goes back to the surface world, and he ends up flying on this kind of blimp type of thing. And it was pretty cool. I actually really liked it, but I'm not going to get more of this unless I find it somewhere, right? If I end up in a situation where I'm browsing some stack of comics and I find more of these issues, I'm going to get them, right? But given that is basically a 0% chance, I'm not going to buy more of this. I'm not going to go out of my way to purchase more of this because I just don't think that Mike Hoffman's writing ability matches his artistic ability, right? His ability to draw. And I'm not going to buy comic books that I only like the art for. I want to have a full package, right? Because comic books are writing plus artwork. If only one of those is good, I'm probably only going to be willing to lean to the type that have better writing than art compared to the ones that have better art than writing, because pretty images are useless without good writing, right? At least in my opinion. So, that might not necessarily be true. I think I definitely have some stuff in my collection that I only keep because the artwork is good, but I eventually do get rid of them, right? So those are my thoughts on Mike Hoffman. Those are my thoughts on these 4 issues of different things, and hopefully this was a good issue review for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the Sunday back issues. I will try to do more. I do have more things, but most of them are going to be on the main channel because they're generic superhero stuff. If I get to have another Sword and Sorcery related one, I will add it to this collection here in the Sword and Sorcery book club, right? So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys later.